Did you know some sidegrades in TF2 have sidegrades to them? Now, that might be a bit of a tricky concept to explain, but I'll do my best. So, a sidegrade is not the original weapon, it is a modified version to better suit a different task, yet often fails in certain other areas. This is the design philosophy TF2 uses, and therefore it's the same philosophy we'll be using for this video. So yeah, some sidegrades have sidegrades to them. Now, in terms of distinguishing, there are some weapons on this list that are not sidegrades, yet have sidegrades to them. For example, the flare gun. The flare gun is not a sidegrade to the shotgun. These are two completely different weapons and they can't be compared to each other whatsoever. Yet the shotgun obviously has a lot of sidegrades to it, and the flare gun has a whole family of sidegrades, so it makes adequate competition for this list. There's no real point or purpose to this video, I just want to cover different sidegrades that have sidegrades to them, and it's a cool idea when you think about it on paper. Anyway, that's long enough for the intro, let's get started. I guess we'll start in class order, as the offense classes have a lot more sidegrades than any of the defense and supports combined. So, starting with Scout, we obviously have the stock scattergun and the Force of Nature and the Soda Popper. The Soda Popper is not a sidegrade to the stock scattergun, it is a sidegrade to the Force of Nature. I'm not just talking in design alone, the Soda Popper's stats are that of a modified Force of Nature, as the Force of Nature set the principle for the 2-shot, faster reload, high damage combo. Yet the Soda Popper evolves onto this by actually delivering the high damage combo. The Force of Nature is meant to be a sidegrade to the scattergun, however it kind of fails as it's more or less just a direct downgrade, whilst not only having a damage penalty but also knocking your targets away means you're basically never going to get the kill with this thing. But the principle still stands, therefore it's the middle child for this trio. So hopefully you understand how this analysis is going to work now. We're going to be looking at many different weapons within the same category of class that essentially have sidegrades to their sidegrades. So the Force of Nature is a sidegrade to the scattergun, and the Soda Popper is a sidegrade to the Force of Nature. Now, moving on to Scout's bats, I don't actually know if I want to include this one on the list, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. It's that of the Bat, the Sandman, and the Rap Assassin. So, the Rap Assassin copies the Sandman's idea of essentially being able to launch a projectile at range, even copying the moonshot mechanic. Yet, the downsides between these two weapons are so completely different that I don't even know if I want to count the Rap Assassin as a sidegrade to the Sandman. The Sandman is obviously a sidegrade to the stock Bat, as you sacrifice health in exchange for being able to launch a stunning projectile. Yet the Rap Assassin is just far too different. But I would be remiss if I didn't include it on the list somewhere, so I guess it's an honorary sidegrade of a sidegrade? I'm not so sure, debate in the comments. So Soldier being next on the list possibly has the most famous instance of a sidegrade that you've 100% heard of. Back in the old year of 1499, the Equalizer used to be the escape plan and a Monday Equalizer combined, being its only downside receiving less healing from medics. This of course was overpowered, so they decided to split the weapon in twain, essentially creating a new sidegrade of a sidegrade. So for our ranking here, we have the stock shovel being the original, and then we have the Equalizer, and then finally the escape plan. As the escape plan came last, the Equalizer originally came first. Now I know that's a rough understanding of the term first, yet the model was reused for the Equalizer and the name, so I'm considering that the original one here. Now, as to how well the Equalizer is a sidegrade to the stock shovel, I'd say it performs this. Yet, is the escape plan a sidegrade to the Equalizer? No, because it's kind of just better to begin with. Why would you want more damage at lower health when you can have more speed on the second slowest class in the game at lower health? So, yes, while it is a sidegrade to the Equalizer, it is also a straight upgrade. A bit like the Soda Popper scenario we talked about earlier. Okay, Pyro is next, and there's a lot to talk about here. So we have the stock flamethrower, which has the sidegrade obviously in that of the backburner. The backburner sacrifices air blast in exchange for more consistent critical hits against players. Yet at the same time, the backburner also has a sidegrade to it in that of the Phlogistinator. The Phlogistinator 100% sacrifices air blast in exchange for even more consistent critical hits against players. You might not think these are sidegrades of each other, or that they don't even play like it in practice, but on paper they are sidegrades of each other as they follow the exact same chain of principle, sacrificing air blast, sacrificing your defense in exchange for more powerful offense. Now one thing you'll find within this video is that the middle child has both aspects of the stock and the sidegrade far end of the chain. And this analysis 100% fits with our chain here, as the Phlogistinator has no air blast whatsoever, and the stock flamethrower has no air blast penalties whatsoever at all, yet the backburner treads the path between the two lightly. Now, we have a lot to talk about with Pyro, so I guess we'll continue with this with the flare gun family. So, like I said earlier, the flare gun is not a sidegrade to the shotgun. These are two completely different weapons that function completely differently, and they cannot be compared to each other whatsoever. And therefore, to me, that makes neither one better than the other. One's more consistent in terms of its damage spread, and the other is incredibly good at getting critical hit combos. Yet one thing we do have for the flare gun family is that of many side grades. So next in the line is the detonator. This one allows you to detonate your shots manually and deal mini crits upon burning players. And then on the far side we have the scorch shot, which has a large splash radius damage and also deals mini crits against players. These ones are incredibly similar to our original Pyro set of 3, as all of the side grades sacrifice pure consistent critical damage in exchange for a wider area of effect. The flare gun has no AoE whatsoever, yet deals a flat 90 damage against any burning target, and the other two deal mini crits against burning targets yet have a larger application of fire damage. So the flare gun is a standalone weapon, the detonator is a side grade to the flare gun, and the scorch shot is a side grade to the detonator, thus fitting the criteria for this video. And finally, to complete our Pyro trio of trios, we have the stock fire axe, the home wrecker, and of course, the neon annihilator? Wait, what? Okay, so I always knew this thing could remove sappers, yet it never really occurred to me that this thing was a side grade of the home wrecker of all things. Less damage against base players in exchange for removing sappers. Now, obviously it has the bonus of dealing extra damage against wet players, yet this still qualifies for our list as it is definitively a side grade to the home wrecker. And then of course the home wrecker needs no introduction, less damage against players in exchange for removing sappers. Simple, powerful, probably one of Pyro's best weapons as... well, as a Pyro, when are you really going to be hitting someone with your melee when you have a close range flamethrower and shotgun to begin with? There is literally no reason to ever not carry this thing. Now for our defense classes, I debated with Demo over the sticky launchers, yet I kind of realised that they're just too different to each other and I wouldn't really consider any of them side grades to side grades. However, we do have adequate competition in that of the shields. So the charge and charge was the first shield, and it came with this original idea of being able to charge in a straight line and having various damage resistances. The Splendid Screen came next and copied on this idea of having altered damage resistances in exchange for a more curving charge line, and of course some more damage upon hitting a player. And then finally the Tide Turner improved on this even more whilst having even less damage resistances yet the full ability to control as you charge, and then of course it came with a downside of mini crits as the full crits were a bit too strong. Like the Sandman trio, I debated as to putting these on the list, yet as I really thought about it, these 100% fit the definition of side grades to side grades. You have an original concept, one that alters it slightly for a different purpose, and then one that alters that one slightly for a different purpose. Now, with shields being done, the heaviest lunchbox items were gonna come up somewhere on this list eventually, we all knew it. But there are so many different kinds, and so many different kinds of effects that they can produce, and I'm actually gonna save them for their own separate video, so I'm not gonna talk about them here. But just to know, I do acknowledge the fact that the Savage has side grades to it. And the only other thing I should say for heavy is that the gloves of gloving urgently and the gloves of killing urgently are two completely different weapons, even though they share a similar model, so they don't count as side grades of each other, as one gives a speed boost and the other gives guaranteed crits. And with the minefield that the heavy lunchbox is out of the way, the only other thing we have to talk about is the medic melees, in that of the stock bone saw, the uber saw, and Vitasaur. So the Vitasaur is a side grade to the uber saw, as you still get uber under some effect, yet of course the circumstances are different. It's a bit similar to like that of the Sandman trio, in which one gives you less health and the other gives you negligible downsides. But even so, the Uber Saw, even though it's the middle child, it is kinda just the best one. I mean, why would you have Uber later when you can have Uber now? But either way, they fit the criteria of this list, as the Uber Saw is, well, it was originally designed to be a side grade to the Bone Saw, and Vitasaur designed to be a side grade to the Uber Saw. Even though this is probably the only middle child on our list that is actually best in both worlds. And those are all the side grades of side grades within TF2 I could find. Now, the whole reason I made this video to begin with is to study the case of the middle child, as the middle one in between the side grade line is often the worst. Think Detonator compared to Flare Gun and Scorch Shot, or think the Backburner compared to the Phlogistonator and, you know, the stock Flamethrower. However, I also wanted to see if this differed in any cases. I do find this differs with Heavy's lunchboxes, which is why I want to dedicate their own video to them. Yet, of course, the biggest differing case within this whole lot is, of course, the Uber Saw. Now, the reason I find the discussion of the middle child so fascinating is that all of the middle children we talked about, except for maybe the Splendid Screen and the Homewrecker, have been definitively worse than either one on either side. Think, for example, the Detonator being worse than the Scorch Shot. The chance of missing your AoE compared to guaranteeing hitting it is worse, and of course the Flare Gun is still incredibly good. Think the Force of Nature, think the Sandman, any other ones we've covered. Yet the Uber Saw stands out as being the single best in its line, while also being a middle child, which is very interesting and incredibly rare upon these circumstances. Long story short, I love science, I love experimenting, and I love research, and my research shows that when you try to do the best of both worlds, you often fail at both. Think the Phlogistonator being an all-out on no air blast, and the stock flamethrower being an all-out on having air blast, yet the backburner is just kind of failing because it doesn't really know which one it wants to do. And I found this very interesting. That's not to say I hate middle children. For example, the Force of Nature is actually my favourite scattergun, and the backburner is actually also my favourite pyro primary. And I was quite happy to see that Soundsmith made a video on it the other day, and ever since then I've actually seen a large increase in uses of the backburner, and that makes me happy. But then again, the backburner's concept fails in comparison to the Phlogistonator, as the Phlogistonator is just a stronger weapon. Anyway, well, that will do it for here. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Sorry it's been a couple of days since the last upload. I've had so many family members around. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later down the sunny road. Cheers.